we go. Okay,
Yeah.
that'll be good. Okay, just go ahead
You
and
have to
launch
get the
into it.
balance because I'm not going to stay frozen.
Okay, good. Okay. Good. Okay.
Actually, I'll go back to when I was a young boy, a large family, and I remember being taught the Old Testament and the New Testament. One time when I was about 7 years old, I came home and said, "Mom, Sister Seraphine just read to me a story about Moses, and he lived to be 120 years old." And I says, "Mom, they mustn't have had hospitals or anything at that time." I said, "Why can't I?" And she laughed. Well, I went on. I've always had a few things in mind. One was I always exercised, always liked my vegetables raw, and I finally went through life that way with thinking. And in about 25 years ago, my wife's very good at keeping track of health and stuff, and we really started strong on alternative medicine then. And I wasn't sick, neither was my wife. But I met a German doctor by the name of Alseben in Seattle, and he was being given lots of trouble by the medical association. And he told me about chelation. And he said it's really a preventive. And so I started chelation with him, and he finally had to move out of the country. At that time, there were very few doctors. I went down to Mexico a couple of times, and long story short, then I met a Dr. Bowles in Seattle about that time, and I started taking about 1 chelation a month. Then take a mineral after I took so many chelation. And then Dr. Manuel came up about 1980. The story I'm saying is that I do about 3 or 4 things. One, I think health is exercise, diet, drink a lot of water, and a state of mind. And then do those alternatives accordingly. We've been taking the vitamins that started a long time ago. I'm 81 years old, and I still take my big tablespoon of cod liver oil with apple cider vinegar every morning. I take my Metamucil vinegar in the evenings. I work out every day. If I'm traveling, I try to walk about 3 to 4 miles a day, fast power walk. I drink about 1 gallon of water. That sits on my desk all the time. My wife keeps it up. My secretary keeps it full. I guess what I'm saying is that I thought the medical doctors, very good people, they're very important, they're educated, but they get focused on one thing, and they want to use a prescription or a drug to fix you, and many times that helps. I think alternative medicine will come into the future stronger every time. I see how much stronger it is today than it was 25 years ago. And there's nothing secretive about it. The Chinese used a lot of those things 2,000 years ago. So I would tell the young people of the world, or those who want to believe, exercise, diet, whatever it is, but watch it. A lot of fresh fruit, a lot of raw vegetables. Do your exercise and think, I'm not sick. So that's about where I am. My wife was 75 yesterday, and she just goes like nobody's business. We have 6 sons, and but she always, without pushing and shoving, has always watched diet, vitamins, and those things that I talked about.
How did you meet Dr. Rowan? Did he come directly to you?
No, we met him after Alseben left Seattle in the early mid-70s. He was a German doctor. And then we had another doctor in Los Angeles once or twice. And I don't remember exactly Howe was appointed to Dr. Rowan, but he was in Seattle, so we started going there. And he had lots of trouble for a long time. Very good man. I think he's just retired, I think. And I went to him, and he was the kind of a person you meet, like meeting the right kind of woman to marry. He just sort of fit. And so we stayed with him until Dr. Emanuel opened up here, and he retired he came about 1980 and retired about 95 or somewhere along in there. And Dr. Denton took off from there. Dr. Rowan had been here for years. I even appointed him on the medical board when I was governor the last time in 1990, 92, 4. A lot of controversy, but it was there. I think, and I believe this, I've seen my good friends, the normal doctors, who didn't even believe in vitamins 20 years ago, coming a long way around. I think alternative medicine is somewhat of an answer to the drug therapy that they push so hard. I think that lifestyles of drinking a lot of water and watch your diet and exercise is something that mothers can teach children. And so I think health is not just going to a doctor and getting a prescription. I think it's something the family has to start with. And I believe, I can't prove this, I don't know. I think the health starts in the womb of a mother. I think it's her attitude. My mom talked about that. When you're pregnant, stay happy, watch your diet, do your exercise, do your things. And I think that mentality affects the fetus. That's what I think. So I'm not trying to sell that idea or anything. That's just what I believe. Mm-hmm. And so health starts with the conception of a child, and it starts with birth. And you have to keep on going. And some people are born different than others, but health is a lifetime event.
Mm-hmm. Did you find that there was a lot of controversy when Dr. Rowan was trying to get the Medical Freedom Act available to the people here in Alaska? When was it, 1992 when that happened?
There's been a lot of that. Yes, there was a lot of objection, but it's one of education. It's one of presenting it right. Dr. Bull is a different kind of a guy, but he had lots of problems by the profession as a whole more than individuals. I think now that I look back in 25 years, there was only a very few doctors that I knew of in the United States that was giving chelation. I just didn't know. But today there must be thousands. And so time caught on with that. And there's a lot of herbs and stuff like that are natural plants that have a lot of ability to heal. Mm-hmm. And so it isn't just the pharmaceutical companies that have the answer. They've done a lot of good. They've got to, and they're driven by their economics and stuff like that. But I think there has to be more of what's available to the world and to the people in the natural things. Very simplicity of drinking a lot of water. Although fresh water is becoming more difficult to get and things like that. On another subject, I said 25 years ago and wrote about that fresh water will be the most important resource of the 21st century. So that's one thing, and that's where it comes from.
Did you personally have a lot of resistance from the AMA and the pharmaceutical companies when you decided to work in trying to get medical freedom for the people up here?
You always have that. I'm a believer. I do what I think in my heart and push out. I don't get angry at those that fight. They fought. I just go ahead and do the things that I believe in, and finally, if it's right, it just stays. And that was one of them.
How much of help was Senator Wade in trying to get the legislation passed?
He was a supporter, and we finally, I just kept on working, and basically the legislature knew where I was coming from. And I remember once when I was in the cabinet, one of the first cabinet meetings, President Nixon mentioned, he said, Wally takes an hour and a half a day to work out, and that's okay. He'll be available at midnight or any other time, but he takes his hour and a half, and I do. When I was governor the first time, I did it. In the 60s, when I was secretary, I did it. I was governor the last time, I did it. I do it today. If I'm traveling, I just try to power walk for about an hour. State of mind, those kind of things. I do what I think is right, and I don't care what people think. I won't apologize for what I believe in.
What do you feel about the idea of forcing people to have vaccinations? So I know Senator Ward is working to try and give people an alternative and asking for some type of actual documentation that the vaccinations are good.
I don't know enough about that. I know it's there. I have never taken an awful lot of vaccinations. I just haven't. I haven't needed that. There are some reasons that they started vaccination years ago with tuberculosis and some of those things, and they probably helped at that moment and probably help now. I can't answer that, but if they carry vaccinations out to the extreme where there'll be an alternative for diet, exercise, and state of mind, then that won't work.
You think it's fair that they try to force parents and legislate laws that prevent parents from having a choice of whether to vaccinate their children or not?
Well, that's sort of what democracy is all about. They should have the freedom to do what they want. And I've seen that on both sides. I think the parents should have a choice, absolutely. But then the opposition says, but when they get sick, we have to take care of them. And if they'd have vaccinated them, maybe they wouldn't. And so you have that part of society that's, let me put it this way. You can't legislate God. And you can't legislate love. Hatred causes you more problems than love does. Christ came on this world 2,000 years ago to try to sell that idea. He's convinced about a third of the world in 2,000 years. Well, so, do what you think. And I'm not selling it, but Christ did what he thought was right, what he believed. And it's catching on, but some people,
Yeah, well, a lot of our doctors are Christians and have given their personal testimony on how it was their faith in Christ that caused them to have the ability to make a stand against the powerful forces that they came up against.
I do that. I know you don't know this and not part of this conversation, but on another issue entirely different than that, if I can talk about it in just a minute. The world used to think was communism and capitalism. And when you talk about the commons, people in Texas, Oklahoma, or any place, thought you was talking about communism. I put together the Northern Forum, 40 countries, 10 years ago. How do you manage the commons in the private sector? A lot of people in the world, or America, doesn't understand that Alaska's owned in common. We bought it from Russia. And yet we do it with the private sector, for the benefit of the total, not from some ruler or czar. And when you look at the world's commons, it's going to take a long time to come around. But 84% of the world is owned in common. Alaska is the only spot that does that. Africa is very rich. Its leaders, it's rich in resources. Its leaders are wealthy. People are poor. Russia's the same way. And so Alaska, here it is, that little piece of real estate on top. I put this together when Truman was president, very young guy. Fought the battle, won the war. Was the first governor to open up, I was the second governor, but I was the governor that opened up Pluto Bay to make those decisions locally for the benefit of the people. And so that's going to take a long time, too. God didn't make this world just for the whites or the blacks, or North America or South America, Europe or Asia. He made it for the total. And, that's the way it is.
Let me put this on hold. It looks like Yvonne has something to say
Yvonne.